Our panel topic is focused on cloud identity and access management. My name is Bryan Lee. I will be very honored to be the moderator for this panel. As you can see, we have three panelists already there. We have Jun Leung, a Director of Identity and Access Management for Moneris. We have Rohit, a Director Digital Trust from City of Toronto. We have Ayman, a Senior Security and Compliance Technical Specialist from Microsoft Canada. Welcome. All right, so at the beginning of this panel, I like to ask all our panel speakers just to quickly introduce yourself. Maybe 30 seconds, what do you do? Some interesting things you want to share with us. Let's start with June.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, and thanks for having us here, Bryan. My name is Jun Leung, and I am with Moneris, as Bryan mentioned. I've been in this field for over 15 years, and when I first joined, there's IAM is not a thing, it's just giving access. And now we have expanded into a specific panel talks about identity and access management. So the field has changed a lot, and I'm very excited about this field. We learn every year it changes, so we are it forces us to learn and also to adapt to what's coming. So I love to share some ideas and have a discussion with the panel. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, June. And who wants to be next?
I can go, Ayman.
Go.
My name is Rohit Singla. You can call me Ro. I go by pronounce he and him. I am Director of Cybersecurity with City of Toronto. And like June said, I'm also a IAM enthusiastic. And when I started my career, and it was not by choice, but now I'm glad I did. And also looking forward to the conversations and sharing some interesting facts and learning few.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Ayman Yassa. I'm a senior technical specialist at Microsoft. I've been working with identity since Windows 2000, so I've been almost 22 years in the making of identity. I've been with Microsoft for the last 13 years. What I do on a daily basis is I do technical pre-sales support for everything identity, security, and as we will talk, I think that today identity and security goes a long way together. So it's going to be my pleasure to be with you in this panel.
Excellent. As you can see, all our panel members have a rich experience in the identity and access domain. And identity, based on my also personal observation, become more and more kind of as a center of the topic for security and for IT. And there's a industry also claim that the cybersecurity now is become like identity centric rather than before the network centric. So it's very important. And also with the fast development of cloud. So we also need to pay attention to the cloud security with identity and access management. So that's the reason we organize this panel. Let's start with some basic questions, and then we will have some in-depth discussion about cloud IAM. So number one, I think that's a common challenge. Nowadays, for any organization, especially medium and large organization, it's not like they only have one environment. They have all kinds of environments. They have a cloud. They maybe have a multi-cloud environments, like different cloud providers. They have a on-premise. They have a hybrid. They may also have a private cloud environment. So that's also the challenge for the IAM. So I'd like to ask our panel members, how can we better manage the IAM on such a complex environment? Anybody can start. Maybe Ayman, you want to start?
By all means. So thank you for the question, Bryan. The way I look at it is, despite the fact that we're talking about hybrid environments, cloud, we still need to start from the on-prem. We need to make sure that our identities that are on-prem are managed properly and are clean data, because otherwise, if we move to the cloud, it would be garbage in, garbage out. So we take with us what we have on-prem. So despite the fact that cloud might sound like, oh, a new big which really it is, most enterprises and complex environments will live in hybrid environment, which means they will keep the on-prem alongside the cloud. And in order for this to happen, we need to clean the on-prem data. I think we also need to clearly define the roles and the tasks that need to be applied and done, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud. This could be a good starting point. And also design a model that uses role-based access control. So just not everybody, like we did on-prem, having accounts that are having all the permissions everywhere and left and right, and then move them to the cloud with the same high-level permissions.
Excellent. So still, there are a lot of, even though cloud and technology moving very fast, but there are still some basic things we need to do. And we actually can learn, like what you mentioned, learn a lot from the on-premise experience, but expand and leverage the new tools to implement those things and the models as well. All right, cool. Anyone else want to share your insights?
Yeah, so I'll go next, Bryan. So for me, a lot of organizations are on-prem, as Ayman mentioned, and then moving to cloud. And it's actually very complex because we are not familiar with the cloud. And every vendor is different. And also, it changes all the time. So I think it's important to sort of sit down and not rush the journey, because I know a lot of people like, let's just go to now, but there's a lot of planning needs to be involved. So it is if you're gonna move from cloud on-prem to cloud, is everything gonna move? You still need to have an authoritative source. You cannot have two bosses, cloud and on-prem. You can only have one. So make sure that you have that one authoritative source. So when people are leaving, emergency termination, whatnot, you know exactly how long it takes and what are some of the crown jewels or critical application access that you want to remove.
All right, so very important. You need to have a single version of truth, right? So authoritative place to decide all the access privilege and identity things. Excellent. Rohit, can you add more on that?
Yeah, Brian, I will probably tie it up with what Ayman and June has said. I think the good part is cloud is not it's not grown organically just yet. Like our on-prem solutions have grown organically from past 20, 30 years. So we have a scope to plan, strategically plan our cloud deployments and footprint. And to their point, do it in such a way that it doesn't collide with each other. Multi-cloud environment, on-prem, they are not stepping on each other's feet. And so planning is a key, I would say, when moving or thinking about cloud's first strategy.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's our first question regarding, okay, so how do we manage the IAM on the complex environment? And I think all of you also mentioned that we need a framework. We need some like a best practice. We cannot just rush in and randomly to do things. We need to follow a structured way to do that. One of the popular model right now in the industry is a zero trust. Right? So this is a topic in many conversation. Zero trust is widely adopted by the industry. So I like to ask our panel, how does it work with the cloud IAM?
I can start
You want to
first.
start?
Yeah, sure. So, so as we know, identity is the perimeter. So, we need to ensure that if all the data in the cloud, the right people have access to. So, with zero trust, there's a lot of strategies, not just one size fit all, right? So there are like different persistent access. Are you going to have just in time? What type of just in time? Do they need to give reasons? So when a business comes to me and says, June, can you help me build a model for my application? I would apply the least privilege principle, provide access to folks that to do the job, no more, no less. So how I do this is I would talk to them and understand what role in that applications, how many do they have, who are the users, why do they need it, what risk is there with that role. Always think about if it's a worst case scenario, what can the attacker do, right? So from there, if it's something that's very important, I would actually recommend doing the just-in-time approval as well. Like in that moment you need it, go get access and get approval. Obviously, we got to balance security with business needs. So if you only have one approver, that's not going to work, right? So you have to have multiple and make sure that communicate people know that, yeah, these roles we need it. This is why, and these are the 5 people or 3 people that can approve. So that way, you're not stopping a administrator, for example, to access the application when they really need it at that time, because then it's not going to work.
Excellent. So what I hear is one thing is you need to understand the business, the roles, right? So because each company may be different, right? So you need to understand the people's roles. That's on the business side as well. Then also I hear some keywords like least privilege and also the just-in-time access. So those are very important to Zero Trust. Anyone else want to add that?
I can add.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I can add a couple of things. I think the Zero Trust is a security model, information security model, which is based out of like trust no one, right? Literally speaking. So, and so the good part is the principle it is designed on, they apply similar to both on-prem and cloud because it doesn't segregate between the network boundaries. In addition to what June has said, one thing I would say is for zero trust model to work, it's very much important to have a input of a right data, to have the system to be able to do analytics. So an integration with a SIM solution is a good approach, a good recommendation that can be done to feed that the whole ecosystem additional intelligence, so to speak. I mean,
I want to add to what you just mentioned, Rohit and June. This is great, but like you mentioned, when we say zero trust, it's we really do not trust anything or anyone, and identity is just a factor in that zero trust model. We have to remember we have other components, including devices, applications, network, and infrastructure. So we need to, on top of the just in time, we need to also think about assuming breach. So the attack could be coming from a rogue individual internally or from somebody externally trying to breach the network. And when applying a zero trust model and assuming breach, we're giving the least privileges, as June mentioned, and we are validating on every access. So we should really remember that users and devices tie in together. So not only allowing the individual, but which device am I managing that device? Is it in a status that I accept to access the network? These two go together.
Excellent. So always verify. So
Oh.
You cannot just simply trust because it's already in your office network. You need to verify along all the touching points. All right, cool. So that's a zero trust with cloud identity and access management. The next question I like to ask our panel is regarding, because identity and access management really is a process, right? So you have a identity, authentication, authorization, accounting, audit, kind of like it's a life cycle. One key component for that is authentication, which will verify who you are. And from years, the basic authentication method is like a password, right? So you live with that, and your company also have a lot of best practice for manage password, set up password policy, all kind of things. But with the change of the new technology and the hackers techniques, so password itself is not the best way to protect us, right? So there are things like multi-factor authentication, like SMS or even passwordless. So can you share some insights regarding the authentication on the cloud? Maybe we let Ayman first.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you know what? We can put a lot of models about security, but at the end of the day, it's going to be used by human beings, and humans are the weakest link in that security model. So if we want to really ensure secure access to resources, we need to get rid of passwords because our brain cannot process a long 24 character, different characters password. So going passwordless is one thing, and it ties into what we just mentioned earlier. It's the zero trust. So going passwordless using devices that can recognize the individuals, respect their privacy. If we don't want to use facial recognition or touch IDs, then we use TPM chips and pins. But at the end of the day, we need to leverage as well machine learning, because the fact that I'm able to log in and have the double factor authentication, it does not mean that I'm the right individual. We still need to see the location. We still need to see the device, the combination of all the zero trust components. Get rid of the password is as fast as possible is the most recommendation that I would give to any enterprise, because it's the weakest link. It's the easiest one to break.
Yes, we hear a lot of incidents regarding the password, even until today, right? So we hear all this. And even with the password management software, we still have a gap there. And fundamentally, passwordless is something we need to looking for. All right, June and Rohit, anyone you want to share?
June, you want to go first?
Yeah, I was just gonna exactly in agreement with what Ayman said, and with the password, it is very difficult for users, and they hated it. They don't like the password at all. So just think of different ways to remove it as fast as possible.
Excellent. Rohit?
Well, my stand is that password has a place uh, in our ecosystem. But at the same time, I would say passwords should not be used for very critical and sensitive assets. For something which is, I mean, there is a reason why we have been not been able to remove passwords altogether from past 20 years, um, because they are convenient and easy to implement. They are low cost solutions rather than and the alternatives. Ultimately, I have no doubt in my mind passwords will be replaced eventually. Like Apple is killing passwords using passkey, and other vendors, big companies are doing the same. But yes, make passwords. I mean, the authentication methods should be directly proportional to the sensitivity at hand. So passwords are not for a highly sensitive material. Um, so for those things, go zero trust or some other numerous authentication mechanisms available.
All right, cool. Yeah, so we get a consensus. Really, industry need to kind of moving towards the passwordless directory. Although sounds simple, but when you implement that, of course, there's a lot of transition, because when people get used to certain things, I think like Ayman said, at the end of the day, really is how can we help users to use that, right? So the usability also very important to sign in, to verify people. All right, cool.
If I may add something, Brian,
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
to what we said. So going passwordless alone is not enough. You should go passwordless with zero trust and conditional access. So if I
Exactly.
every day open my laptop and I'm working from home, okay, it's a known location, everything seems normal. But if I take that same laptop, I'm the same individual, and go to another country or another location, prompt for double factor authentication. Make sure that it's the same individual using. So passwordless alone is not enough. You need to combine it with the zero trust.
Excellent.
Clear on that point.
So multi-dimensions, like what I hear is because a password or all those tradition is just one way to verify you. But like what you mentioned, your location, your device, add another. So basically, at the end of the day, it's a risk. You manage the user risk, sign risk, and also environmental risk. So then using AI to make the intelligent decision, not just the only password one way to get that. Cool. And the next question. One of the challenge we hear a lot is how do we manage those privileged account? Because in each organization, you have your boss, you have a manager, director, all those people have a kind of they have control to certain confidential information. But we also have a special roles, not a special, but just certain roles, for example, like IT, like admin, like HR, and also finance people, right? So all those people, they have a touch on very sensitive information. So what are some like a best practice to manage those privileged account also with a cloud? So can you share some insights with us? Let's start with Rohit first.
Okay. Um, so, keeping aside the best practices that are applicable to both on-prem and cloud, there are many of them are like that. But in my practices like one-way hashing, all these admin accounts should have one-way hashing, should not be decryptable. Uh, we need to assign roles and responsibilities to a group rather than to individual IDs. They both apply to both the on-prem and cloud. A couple of recommendations that are applicable only to cloud, I would say break glass procedures. When we host our privilege accounts on cloud, we need to make sure that if the cloud environment is unavailable for some reason, we need to have an offline copy of those credentials because we would need them in case of BCDR. And if they are hosted on cloud and we are not able to access cloud, we are we're dead in water. That's one. Second, keeping our privilege accounts in the cloud has a risk of legal hold since it's a shared environment. And if some other, because of some legal issues, there's a hold on the environment because of which our information is shared with the authorities. Um, that puts our environment organization as a risk. Our credentials are shared with somebody else. So those are the two key recommendations or key considerations I would like to for people to think when they move privilege accounts to cloud.
Yeah, excellent. That's a draw from your years of experience. That's a really good insight. June, you want to add on anything there?
Yeah, so I am leveraging the existing privilege management tool, access management tool that I have on-prem. And so using that model, also put a connector with the cloud. And obviously, we're not only the critical privilege account. I would be using this model because instead of, again, there's multiple ways of zero trust. So with that model, I actually have it so that using the shared account model that Rohit mentioned, so that I'm recording. I know exactly when these accounts are being used. Are they associated with a change ticket, for example? Because not every single function requires these privileged accounts, right? So when they use it, we know that it is for a specific reason, and we record it. We know who access those accounts. So I'm leveraging the privileged access management tool, extending the use.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, June. Ayman?
So I would like to add to what Rohit and June mentioned and in agreement with everything they said. There is a factor that's always been left on the side. It would be training and education for admins. So we assign them roles and we don't tell them the impact of what exactly losing that role or account would impact the enterprise. So training, and readiness for those individuals. The second thing is for the same individual who has a highly privileged admin role, I recommend always using two accounts. One that's on a daily basis being used for emails, for accessing websites, doing search, and another one that does not have a mailbox and does not have access to web and the internet. It would be for admin roles. This admin role would be managed with, like earlier when June said, just-in-time access. So on a need-to-go basis and not for 24/7. It's just in time, just enough. So we give just in time, just enough access for these accounts. And if need be, we go with approvals and we go with double factor authentication because these accounts still, if they hold a password, they can be stolen and used. So adding the layer of the zero trust and security to it with double factor authentication secures those.
Excellent. I wanted to add exactly what Ayman said, because when you are implementing those two accounts for the different accesses and min role, you're going to get a lot of pushback from the mins because definitely is not convenient, right? Because I log into my email, now I need to do a function, I need to use another account. So I think another strategy would be communicate to executives, get the buy-in from this is a top-down approach. Security is not a bottom-up approach. So in this case, explain to your model, your framework, and get buy-in from the executive, their managers, and let the manager explain to them. And you can be in the meeting and make sure, and that way you will have a easier way to implement and have success because there's a specific reason why we're doing this, not because we want two accounts, right? So.
Wonderful. And now what I hear from you guys, the insights, reflect one important concept, because cybersecurity is not just technical thing. You have to combine people, process, technology. So you need to leverage some tools for sure. So that's on the technical side. On people side, as Ayman mentioned, so you need to have awareness, you know how to do those things, educate, training. And like Rohit and June also mentioned, from policy governance side, you need to establish certain framework or process, and it could be from top down to also to define those ones that ensure everybody follows. So this is a beautifully kind of demonstrate. So we needed three factors to manage the privilege account. In fact, any other concept as well. All right. The last question is regarding the governance, actually, because people are doing all kinds of things. At the end of the day, how do you satisfy maybe audit, review, access, review, and also manage what, like you review what happened before, and also make the informed decision what kind of things we need to do in the future. So those topics are regarding identity governance and access reviews, and specifically on the cloud. Can you share some insights on this topic? Ayman, you want first?
Yeah, I think we're going to repeat a little bit of some of the answers we already gave. So when we talk about identity governance, we really need to use separate accounts for highly privileged day-to-day use and the daily user account. We need to run access reviews, just make sure who has access to which resources and do they still need to have access. Like June also mentioned, we audit the access reviews and the reviews themselves, and if somebody keeps access, we do the just in time plus the MFA. That would be my second or third point. And know your resources that you're publishing as well, because when you start going to the cloud, you're taking a lot of resources and you're opening the enterprise to the whole World Wide Web. So what are you actually publishing as resources, whether it's a SharePoint site or a Teams or an application? Be able to review the access to those resources as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Rohit, you want to add anything on that?
Sure. So I would say when it comes to cloud, be cognizant what data do we want to store there. There might be many information that is associated with an account, with an identity. It may be PI, PHI. My recommendation is to store minimum required information that is used for authentication only in a cloud environment. Rest everything should be on-prem or somewhere which is more secure area, private cloud, for instance. That way, if there is any breach that happens on the cloud, it's a shared environment, you only lose your credentials. You're not losing your uh, demographics. You don't use PI, PHI information.
All right, so constraint, it's kind of like building some policy about what kind of information should go where. Excellent.
Exactly.
June, can you share something?
Yeah, just to wrap it up, probably have a very clear with the framework, have a very clear RACI, because with the cloud is not just one team, it's multiple teams managing it. So have that RACI, know exactly who is the decision maker, who is doing what, so that in any situation, you know that this person is going to be approving or this person is going to be making those decisions. I also want to add that for attestation, even with the various regulations, we need to do it on a specific time frame or based on your standard. But think from a business side as well. If I'm a manager and I already had a just-in-time approval yesterday, right, from approving that access yesterday from one of my team members, why do you want to send me an attestation today and say, does this person need access? Well, I told you yesterday that they need. So sort of like think about different ways to satisfy our requirements. Again, not one size fits all. So we're all learning, adapting to cloud IAM.
All right, cool.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
June made a very important point that I don't want to go unnoticed. Think from business perspective. I think that is the key. We all think from very technical and cyber perspective, But in order for us to succeed, we need to keep their perspective in mind.
Excellent. All right, so it's actually getting closer to our panel time. Thank you very much, everyone, to share with your insights. Before we go, I'd actually ask our panel members. So if there's only one thing you want to leave with our audience, so what kind of suggestion or recommendation or tips or insights you want to talk about to share with our audience regarding the cloud IAM? Yeah.
I would say think strategically, act tactically.
Strategically and technically. Okay, cool.
I would
June?
say that do
Yeah,
not
okay.
consider identity that it's something that's disconnected from everything else in the enterprise. Identity is the focal point of security. So managing identity means ensuring security of the environment. So all teams need to be aware of everything that's identity related and policy related.
Excellent.
I would just go back to the basics: plan, plan, and plan.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, our panel members. Again, June and Rohit and Ayman. So thanks for sharing your great insights. Identity is a very important topic. And in fact, at Cyber Tech and Risk, we have a upcoming conference focused on identity called Identity Security Summit in February next year. So we will have more conversation on this topic. Thank you very much again, June, Rohit, and Ayman. Thanks for coming to share with us your insights.
Thanks,
Thank
Brian.
Thank you, Ben.
Have a good day.
All right.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye for now.